Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to the God Krishna Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Grace GANGA PRASAD PRABHU. And all glories to the assembled Vaishnava devotees. We thank you for being here today. It's a special day because it is the last verse of chapter 3 of Canto 3. And it's going to be taken care of by His Grace GANGA PRASAD PRABHU. Prabhuji, we're very much grateful you are here with us today. And without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen and you take it over from Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Danava Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Om Gyanti Mirandaksya Jnanang Jana Salakaya Chakshuro Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Nanobhistam Stavitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Radhanath Swami Ite Namine Nama Om Shivanaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ite Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Astatya Desatarine Jai Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Deham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Syam Shri Rupam Sagrajatan Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Syam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Devi Namami Hari Priye Manchaka Patarubhyasjai Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanendeyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shivasadi Shri Gora Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. I'd like to formally welcome everyone present and thank the organizers of this platform for the privilege to get the chance to do this seva. And I beg for everyone present blessing that I may do this service with due diligence for my purification and for the benefit of the audience. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naranchai Vanara Uttamam Devin Sarasatim Vyasa Tatudaya Mudirayet Nasapriya Swabradesu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavate Uttamas Loke Bhakti Bhavati Nastikini. We are taking our reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd Canto, Chapter 3, the Lord's Pastime out of Vrindavan, text number 28. Please let us read the sloka and then the synonyms, then translation and points. Anam chorura samtebhyo datva bhagavatapanam goviprata sabhasura prane mubo vimodavi. Anam chorura samtebhyo datva bhagavamapanam goviprata sabhasura prane mubo vimodavi. Anam chorura samtebhyo datva bhagavadapanam goviprata vasasura prane mubo vimodavi. Word for word transliteration. Anan foodstuffs shall also uru rasam highly delicious. They are unto the brahmanas that were
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. It seems we lost our speaker, so we will patiently wait for him to reconnect, and then the class will resume. Thank you for your patience. Hare Krishna.
Nadia Gojumeni Tananda Mahajan Katia Chinam Hate Jibera Karan Katia Chinam Hate Jibera Karan Shraddha Bhanjan Hai Shraddha Bhanjan Hai Shraddha Bhanjan Hai Shraddha Bhanjan Hai Prabhu Aagai Bhai Magiye Bhikha Prabhu Aagai Bhai Magiye Bhikha Bolo Krishna Bhajo Krishna Koro Krishna Shika Bolo Krishna Bhajo Krishna Koro Krishna Shika Aparara Shunna Hoy Loho Krishna Naam Aparara Shunna Hoy Loho Krishna Naam Krishna Mato Krishna Pito Krishna Dana Pran Krishna Mato Krishna Pito Krishna Dana Pran
It appears our speaker's network is challenged.
All right, so devotees, we're going to continue reading while we patiently wait for our speaker. That's what we're going to do. So we continue with the synonyms. That is where he was at. Anam, foodstuff. Cha, also. Uru rasam, highly delicious. Tebia, unto the Brahmins. Datua, after supplying. Bhagwat Arpanam, which was first offered to the personality of Godhead. Go, cows. Vipra, Brahmins. Artha, purpose. Asavaha, purpose of living. Shuraha, all the valiant Kshatriyas. Pranemuhu, offered obeisances. Bhuvi, touching the ground. Murudabihi, with their heads. Translation and purport by Jagat Guru Param Guru A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: Thereafter, they offered the Brahmins highly delicious foodstuffs, first offered to the personality of Godhead, and offered their respectful obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the Brahmins. Purport. The behavior exhibited by the descendants of Yadu in the pilgrimage site of Prabhu was highly cultured and exactly to the point of human perfection. The perfection of human life is attained by following three principles of civilization. 1, protecting the cows. 2, maintaining the Brahmanical culture. And 3, above all, becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. I'll take that again. The perfection of human life is attained by following 3 principles of civilization. 1, to protect the cows. 2, maintain Brahmanical culture. And 3, above all, the topmost, becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. Without becoming a devotee of the Lord, one cannot perfect one's human life. The perfection of human life is to be elevated to the spiritual world, where there is no birth, no death, no disease, and no old age. That is the highest perfectional aim of human life. Without this aim, any amount of material advancement in so-called comforts can only bring the defeat of the human form of life. Brahmins and Vaishnavas do not accept any foodstuff which is not first offered to the personality of Godhead. Foodstuff offered to the Lord is accepted by the devotees as the mercy of the Lord. After all, the Lord supplies all kinds of foodstuff, both to the human being and to other animals. A human being must be conscious of the fact that all foodstuffs, namely grains, vegetables, milk, water, etc., the prime necessities of life, are supplied for mankind by the Lord, and such foodstuffs cannot be manufactured by any scientist or materialist in a laboratory or factory established by human effort. The intelligent class of men are called Brahmins, and those who have realized the absolute truth in his supreme personal feature are called Vaishnavas. But both of them accept foodstuffs which are the remnants of sacrifice. Sacrifice is ultimately meant to satisfy the Yagya Purusha, that is the Vishnu. In Bhagavad Gita 3:13, it is said that one who accepts foodstuffs as the remnants of sacrifice is freed from all sinful reactions, and one who cooks foodstuffs for maintenance of his body takes in all kinds of sins, which lead only to suffering. The foodstuffs prepared by the Yadus at the PRABHU pilgrimage site to offer to the bona fide Brahmins there were all offered to the personality of God and Vishnu. The Yadus offered their sincere obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. The Yadus, or any enlightened family in Vedic culture, are trained for attainment of human perfection by total cooperation of service between the different divisions of social orders. The word Uru Rasam is also significant here. Hundreds of delicacies can be prepared simply by the combination of grains, vegetables, and milk. All such preparations are in the mode of goodness, and therefore may be offered to the personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:26, the Lord accepts only foodstuffs which are within the range of fruits, flowers, leaves, and liquids, provided they are offered in complete devotional service. Devotional service is the only criterion for a bona fide offering to the Lord. The Lord assures that he positively eats such foodstuffs offered by the devotees. So, judging from all sides, the Yadus were perfectly trained, civilized persons, and their being cursed by the Brahmin sages was only by the desire of the Lord. The whole incident was a warning to all concerned that no one should behave lightly with the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, third chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Lord's Pastimes Out of Vrindavan. Om Ajana Tibrandasya, Jana Jana Shalakaya, Chakshu Unmilitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishta, Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupakatamayam, Dadati Swapatantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktitirtha Swamin Itinamani. Namaste Krishna Padaya, Prabhupada Shritatmane, Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhaktiti Itinamani. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itinamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatya Rishatari. Vancha kalpataribhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha atitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goratvishe Namaha. Nama Brahmanya Devyago Brahmana Hitayacha Jagat Detaya Krishna Govindaya Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Pura Bhaktapinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. So the text again says, let me share the text. Thereafter, they refers to the Yadus, the Yadavas, offered the Brahmins highly delicious foodstuffs, first offered to the personality of Godhead, and offered their respective obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the Brahmins. The Yadus lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the Brahmins. Hare Krishna. So, as a matter of service, we're going to attempt to share a little knowledge on the text, because for some reason our speaker is unable to join back. So we'll continue till, if possible, he comes back. So, like I said in the introduction, this is very interesting because it's the last text or verse to chapter 3 of Canto 3, which describes Lord Krishna's pastimes outside of Vrindavan. So we all have read and heard how the Yadus, or the Yadavas, which is Krishna's personal associates, or we should say Vamsa, or say clan in English language, because the Yadavas were really many, because Krishna married 16,108 wives, and in each of these 16,108 wives, Krishna had 10 sons and 1 daughter with each of them. So I'm not a good mathematician, but if someone may use his or her calculator to multiply 16,108 times 11, we may get a very high number. So these were the number of the Yadavas. And we are hearing and reading from the text itself and the beautiful purport Srila Prabhupada has given, how cultured the Yadavas were. Because the Yadavas were personally trained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they were the sons and daughters of Lord Shri Krishna. And so Shri Krishna, being the king of the city called Dwaraka, which was inhabited by his family, immediate family, that is his wives and his children, and of course, the children's children also. The Supreme Lord himself trained and taught them the proper culture of living in this material world, on this earth planet. And so Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that from all angles, we can see and understand that the Yadavas were properly trained in cultural tradition. Because as human beings, our purpose is to live to protect the Brahminical culture, to protect the land, to protect the cows, to protect the elderly, to protect children, to protect the priests, which is the Brahminical culture, and also to protect women. In a culture or tradition where these individuals are not protected, such an environment is toxic. It's not healthy enough to live in such an environment. And because we are a replica of our surroundings, of what we imbibe, it is very important that we make sure that our environment is saturated with purity, with sanity, where elders are respected, Brahmins are respected, women are respected, children are protected, priests are respected, the land is respected and protected. If we have all these things in place, then, like Prabhupada quoted from Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, when the human beings on earth, when they live to please the Supreme Lord in conjunction with respect to the demigods, and the demigods also living their lives in accordance or in conjunction with human livelihood, then there will be peace amongst the human beings as well as the demigods. So the demigods are meant to serve the human beings. And therefore, by their rendering services unto the human beings, and the human beings also rendering mutual services to the demigods, there will be peace on earth. Now, what does it mean when the scriptures say human beings should cooperate with the demigods? Does that mean that human beings should worship the demigods? Not really. The essence is that we say demi. Demi means half. And then God, demigod. So the demigods are very highly advanced form of human beings who are like half God, in the sense that they are very righteous, they are very religious, and they are very pious. Whereas in human society, most of the time, human beings are not religious, are not pious, and are not virtuous. But when we try to live such lives, then our lifestyle is referred to as godly. We live just like the gods. So gods, demigods are not bad, are not something to be afraid of. It's not something to be shunned, but they are not to be worshipped. They are to be respected. They are to be adored. And when human beings on earth worship the Supreme Lord in the form of sacrifice, when we talk of sacrifice, we have the ritualistic aspect that comes along with sacrifice, like setting up fire, chanting mantras, and throwing in some grains or banana or performing oblations. These things are called sacrifices. But that is not the only sacrifice that is mentioned in the scriptures. Sacrifice also means that one voluntarily forgoes things that may give him comfort. For example, every human being loves to sleep, but those who are astute and intelligent and religious, they cut down their hours of sleep, which is a sacrifice. They cut down the hours of sleep. they cut down the amount of food that they can eat, they can consume. Everything the human being can do to bring him comforts, if the human being knowingly, for the sake and the purpose of pleasing the Supreme Lord, if one cuts down on such comforts just to serve the Supreme Lord becomes very happy. And that is why we observe things like fasting. Nobody wants to run around being hungry, but for the sake of pleasing and serving the Supreme Lord, devotees of the Lord, religious people voluntarily observe a fast. It's not because they do not have food to eat. They have food to eat, but they allow themselves to go hungry just to spend more time with the Lord in the form of reading or preaching or doing some sort of service to please the Lord that they do not even have time to sit down to eat. So that is a sacrifice. Now, when the demigods see that human beings are rendering such sacrifices just to please the Supreme Lord becomes happy. And when the Supreme Lord becomes happy, he engages the demigods to shower the human beings with all necessities of life. So just as we were speaking, somehow or other, the demigods hopefully are pleased with our little attempt to talking about the Supreme Lord, speaking about the Supreme Lord. And we have our speaker back here. So His Grace GANGA PRABHU, we read the transliteration, the translation, the purport, and you may continue from there on. Hare Krishna, and welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhupada said somewhere in the purport, this is the highest perfectional aim of human life. Without this aim, any amount of material advancement in so-called comforts can only bring the defeat of the human form of life. That's the end of the first paragraph. So internet, all of these technological advancements, they are good. But just see how in the nick of time, we just disconnected. Okay, so please forgive me, it is not intentional. This is part of natural calamity. It was raining heavily here. Light went off, internet went off. Okay, thank you very much. I'm back here. So if you have read, I will just continue from where you stopped. Thank you for holding brief. In the purport, Prabhupada made mention of very salient, beautiful points. Beautiful points. And it's about civilization, what real civilization is. Civilization also incorporates technological advancement and all the modern advancements. But according to the Vedic culture, Prabhupada mentioned in the purport that the perfection of life is attained by following three principles of civilization. What we have there is also civilization, but then it is like gone too high. So Prabhupada is bringing us to the basics in the purport. And he mentioned protecting the cows. That's a very important point to note. And there will be a lot of questions raised as far as this is concerned concerning the modern technological approach to living, protecting cows. But what we have more today is abusing cows, exploiting cows, and extinguishing cows. And then the other one is maintaining Brahminical culture. Brahminical culture in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, text 41, Prabhupada was mentioning that the activities of the Brahmana, how the Brahmana acts. Samo dhamma tapaso shanti ajavamevacha. Jana Vigyana Astikyam, Brahma Kama Swabhavaja. So he said that peacefulness with the world order of today, everybody wants peace. Are we getting peace anywhere? The tensions are rising every day. In America, campaign is going on for the presidential election, and then you find that 3 times in a row, the presidential candidate has been shot in an attempt to assassinate him. Would that bring peace? Obviously, no. But it's a peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. This is crucial point, religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmana walk. So this is what is to be preserved. It's not the person per se, but content. That's why Martin Luther King said, man should not be judged by the color of the skin, but by the content of character. So this is content of character. The preservation of Brahminical culture entails content of character. And above all, becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. Very interesting. Without becoming a devotee of the Lord, one cannot perfect one's human life. Because the whole purpose of material creation, like it is mentioned in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, purport till text number 10, Prabhupada said that this material creation is an opportunity offered to the conditioned living entity to be able to perfect the human life. The material creation by the Lord of creation, Vishnu, is a chance offered to the conditions so to come back home, back to Godhead. It's a chance. So we cannot take advantage of that chance if we don't become devotees of the Lord. And when Sanatana Goswami was asking Chaitanya Prabhu in the encounter that my neighborhood, they give me accolades, they call me different things, but me, I don't know who I am. Kill me. And Mahaprabhu replied, Chivera Swarup Ahoy, Krishna Nitya Das. We actually, by constitution, modern technology, we are formatted, we are configured to be devotees of the Lord. So that is what this text segment means. Unless we become devotees, we will never get out of this vicious cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. So, but to deal with the content of the purport, Prabhupada or the speaker Sukadev Goswami is mentioning about the episode that transpired in Dwarka. And the title of the chapter is The Lost Pastime Outside Vrindavan. The lost pastimes are unlimited, unlimited. But here they are narrowing down to the terminal point where the demigods who participated in this pastime, they are exiting. So he says that this the offered foodstuff, highly delicious foodstuff, first to the personality of God, this is part of preserving Brahminical culture. And I've offered their respectful obeisances by touching the heads to they offered this foodstuff to the Brahmanas who were present in Prabhasa. And even though the Brahmanas were earlier offended and they uttered curse, but then this is one medium of atonement. And it is part of the etiquette of reception in Vedic culture. Bhaktidhira Damodar Maharaj was mentioning some pastimes when he was speaking about devotee getting rid of enviousness, and he said, the devotee want to get rid of enviousness must, first of all, hear so much about the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. He didn't have it anywhere like lollipop or sugar candy. It was all quinine. Childhood, he has to go to forest to fight demons. Then he married, he left home after a while, and then he encountered kidnap of his wife and all of this. And when he finally returned, which we'll celebrate in a couple of days, his wife was put under litmus test. He gave up the wife just to please the citizens. So at what point will you say Lord Ramachandra was actually enjoying this world? So if you learn by hearing from the person of Lord Ramachandra, you'll be able to learn the skill of tolerance and give up enviousness. Then he said, those people who we are actually envious of, we should serve them. It's not that the Yadavas were envious of the Brahmanas, but then the episode happened and they acted with the improper decorum. They not meet the standard decorum. They feigned a situation, they present to the Brahmana, and they're a very civilized, cultured family. So the Brahmana got enraged and they ate up a course. But in the end, it is mentioned, it is a pastime of Lord Krishna. But here, the second mention is serving the Brahmanas. Even though the Brahmanas were offended and everything happened, and they have not retracted the cause. But when they met in PRASAD, the Yadavas, they behaved with utmost civility, offered Brahmanas highly delicious food. That is prasad, not just the food content, but prasadam. Because Brahmana, towards the end of the Prabhupada said that the Brahmana and the Vaishnavas, they don't eat anything other than prasadam. That is first offered to the personality of Godhead. He said in the beginning of the next purport, in the next paragraph, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas do not accept any foodstuff which is not first offered to the personality of Godhead. So you can see that they are cultured people. So to deal with this text holistically, we have to borrow a little from Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, text number 21, where it says, Yad yad acharati stristra, tatat eva taru janam, ya sayat paraman kurute, lokastat anuvadate. Whatever action the great man performs, common men follows. And whatever standard is set by exemplary acts, all the world pursue. So the purport is beautifully packaged here by Prabhupada, that if we follow this example, automatically, what is enjoined is we will be making adequate use of our human form of life and become eligible to get out of here, go back home, back to Godhead. But if we act on the contrary, then we'll be recycled here. So you can see the episode here is that those demigods who joined the pastime of Krishna, they are about to exit. They are about to exit and go back to their planetary systems. So this is an example that corroborates the purport we read. It's a chance offered for going back home, back to Godhead. So it's exemplified in this very purport that Prabhupada is mentioning. So Prabhupada went for that a human being must be conscious of the fact that all foodstuffs, namely grains, vegetables, milk, water, etc., the prime necessities of life are supplied for mankind by the Lord. And such foodstuff cannot be manufactured by any scientific or materialist in the laboratory or factory established by human beings. So technological advancement, they are not wrong. But then, look at what he said. Any amount of material advancement in so-called comforts can only bring the defeat of human form of life. So in the same chapter 3, text 13, he said that devotees of the Lord are freed from sinful reactions because they eat food only offered as sacrifice. They take only food that has been offered as sacrifice, nothing else. But those who do the contrary, what happens? They eat only sin. Only sin is what they eat. And then in the next text, it quantifies what are the content of what should be food that is offered. So Prabhupada said in the purport, towards the end of at the beginning of the second paragraph of the purport to this very text, 314, food grains or vegetables are factually eatables. The human being eats different kinds of food grains, vegetable, fruits, etc. And the animals eat the refuse of the food grains and vegetable, grass, plants, etc. Human beings who are accustomed to eating meat and flesh must also depend on the production of vegetables in order to eat animals. This one you can find in that higher taste. And where they put up the analysis or analogy, or no, analysis. Even to eat meat, you need grains, grass, and all of this. And you have to use so much land to cultivate feeds for the animal before you can slaughter them. But the same land can be used to cultivate very small quantity of food that human being will be satisfied with. And Prabhupada gave us an encouragement. He said, 3 months of the year, we can use to cultivate the land and we'll harvest enough that will last for the whole year. The remaining 9 months, you use it for practicing Krishna consciousness. So therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of the field and not on the production of big factories. The field production is due to sufficient rain from the sky. And such rains are controlled by demigods like Indra. I don't know, I met you discussing something like this. The demigods are empowered to do this. Okay? So, and they are all servants of the Lord. The Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. That is the law of nature. Yagya, specifically, the Sankirtan Yagya prescribed for this age must therefore be performed to save us at least from scarcity of food supply. See how it's connected? Yagya comes here, prescribed duty comes here, and then we can avert scarcity. So the materialists in a laboratory or factory establish a human being. The intelligent class of men are called Brahmanas. And those who have realized the absolute truth in his supreme personal future are called Vaishnavas. If you see the purport of 1st Canto, chapter 2, text number 2, in Prabhupada's purport, Divinity and Divine Service, he analyzed the sequence of this advancement from being, he said, generally, a man is born an ordinary man. Not good for nothing, but is raw. In the end of the purport, ultimately the aim of Varnashram Dharma is to turn a crude man into a pure devotee of the Lord or a Vaishnava. So from ordinary, you can be processed and you become a Brahman or Vaishnava. And he said, when he sees new light and seeks direction for spiritual progress, he approaches a spiritual master for instruction in the Vedas. The spiritual master accepts only sincere inquirers as his disciple and give him the sacred thread. What is the benefit of that sacred? It qualifies you to study, to know what is to be done and what is not to be done. He said in this way, it becomes twice born or a Dvija. After qualifying as a Dvija, one may study the Vedas. And after becoming very versed in the Vedas, one becomes a Vipra. A Vipra or a qualified Brahmana. Dvija and Vipra, you can see the difference. Qualified Brahmana thus realizes the absolute truth and makes further progress in life until he reaches this Vaishnava stage. You see the gradation. This is not by anybody rubber stamping like Prabhupada said in that purport. Mahatma is not by rubber stamping any particular human being. It is evolution, spiritual evolution. And that comes from heeding the tutelage of a spiritual master. So the Vaishnava stage is the postgraduate status of a Brahmana. So Vaishnava is even higher than a Brahmana. A progressive Brahmana must necessarily become a Vaishnava. But a Vaishnava is self-realized, learned Brahmana. So in Prabhupada's purport, he's expatiating on this. But both of them accept foodstuff, which are remnants of sacrifice. Sacrifice is only meant for Yagya Purusha. And we have read this in Bhagavad Gita 3:13. We are absolved of sinful reaction because we take only prasada. And one can attain easily going back to Godhead just by chanting the holy name attentively and taking Mahaprasada. You are guaranteed to go back on back to Godhead. Take only Mahaprasad and then chant the holy name. Because it will work like Mahaprabhu said in the first stanza of the Shikshastakam. Cheto Dapana Mahajanam, Vamahadabhagnini Vapanam, Sriya Kairava Chandrika, Vitaranam, Vidya Vadujina, Jivanam, Ananda Buddhi Vadanam, Pratipadam, Punam Rita Swadanam, Savatma Swapanam Param Vijayate, Sri Krishna Sankita. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankita, which cleanses the heart. Sankirtan cleanses, Mahaprasadam also cleanses. And so once you are cleansed of all the contaminations or impurity that are accumulated over lifetime, then you are eligible to go back home, back to God, after adequately applying yourself judiciously in devotional service. So the Yadus offered their sincere obeisances by touching their head to the ground. I like this very statement. When I just joined, my first temple president taught me this. It's a very powerful tool, and you can only be able to corroborate it by the experience of the Pandavas when Dronacharya released the Narayanastra. The Narayanastra destroys any standing object, but the antidote or the counter is just to offer obeisance. Bow your head, like Boy Joy said, bow down, mister. Okay? So here, the Yadavas, they thought, see how I started, whatever a great man does. They bowed their head. They had offended the Brahmanas. They got caused by the Brahmanas. But here, the Yadavas, the Yadus, offered their sincere obeisances by touching their head to the ground. Obeisances. So my temple president told me not to worry. Whatever error or transgression you make in course of executing devotional service, sincerely admit your fault and offer one chakalpata rubias chai, kripasana bievacha patitanam pavanembio, Vaishnava bionam. The Vaishnava will give mercy. It will absolve you of the reactions of those sins. Thus, the Yadus, or enlightened families in Vedic culture, are trained for attainment of human perfection by total cooperation of the service between the different divisions of the social order. In Bhagavatam 1:2-14, it says, Umbi Dvija Sresa, Vanashama Vibhagasa, Sanustasisya Damasya, Samsiddhi, perfection, Haritoshana. When Hari is pleased, your life is perfected. And that comes by cooperation. That's what Prabhupada is trying to make us know. Yes, the Brahmanas were somehow defiled earlier by making mimic of mockery of them, the cost. But in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanation to this very purport, he said certain things. He also intended to show that it is not proper for the Brahmanas to show anger. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, but this act as well, the Devata's portion now separates the Devata portions, means those demigods who join in the Leela become separated from the Yadus, who were eternal associates of the Lord, and return to their places in Swaga. This act also indicates the Lord seeks Aishwarya, detachment. Okay, the Lord was not really attached, but was concerned, and he executed all his pastime adequately. So the point is there, that there should be cooperation, and you can find out towards the end of the first canto, it was the cause of the Sringri Brahmana to Parikit, and Parikit defiling the sage by garlanding him with garland of dead snake. Okay, this is discourteous, this is disrespectful, it should not happen. And when this is happening, it means there's no cooperation. But if you look at this situation here and that situation of Parikit also, it was orchestration of the Lord. It's not a deliberate act. It is the Lord's design that it happened. But in our own day-to-day life, we should be very cautious that we don't become victims of such situation. But if it is the Lord's design, what can you do? You just bow your head and accept. Because that's what Parikti Maharaj said. Parikti Maharaj said, I know this is the Lord's doing. That's the way he wants to give me his mercy. Okay. So in this explanation of Vishwanath Chakrabarti, he said the Vishnu's whose life were dedicated to cows and brahmanas, offered them food which was offered to the Lord. This shows that they were strictly followers of Dharma, strict followers of Dharma, which is what we read religiousness in the qualities of a Brahmana, how he acts. He must be religious. And so at all point also, we should strive to be this. That is only how we can walk our way back home to Godhead. The example is here. The Yadavas, they are giving us example. They are close associates of the Lord. And then we're enjoying. When we become devotees, we also become close associates of the Lord. We become close associates. And our duty here is to become role models. Uddhava has no reason to be here. But Krishna designed or desired that he be here so that he can teach these ethics and the pastimes of Lord Krishna to make us take advantage. So Krishna left, otherwise there is no need for him to be here. And you can imagine not only being here, becoming a grass in Vrindavan. You know, these are deep esoteric pastimes and revelations. But then, this act also indicates the Lord seeks Aishwarya, the third man. By hiding the glories of his devotees, bhakti, his abode, his pastime, and associates, the Lord deceived the materialistic people and produced longing in his devotees, like Uddhava. He hid their qualities that you cannot easily understand them, but they are very intimately related to the Lord. So Prabhupada's purport continues the last paragraph. The Uru Rasam is also significant here. Hundreds of delicacies can be prepared simply by the combination of grains, vegetables, and milk. Also preparations in the mood of goodness, and therefore may be offered to the personality of Godhead as stated in the Bhagavad, as stated in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text number 26. But prior to that 9:26, he mentioned in chapter 17 what food in the mode of goodness looks like. Say food in the mode of goodness, what does it look like? 17, text number 6 or so. Even food each person eats is preferred in three kinds according to the mode of goodness. So in the next one, food dear to those in the mode of goodness, look at the quality. 17:8, increases duration of life, purifies one's existence, gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy. What makes it juicy? Because of the milk, cow milk content. Fatty, also from milk content. Wholesome and pleasing to the heart. You see? So Prabhupada is very precise in this purport. The law accepts only foodstuffs which are within the range of fruits, flour, leaves, liquid, provided they are offered in complete devotional service. Devotional service is the only criteria for a bona fide offering to the Lord. In the purport of that 9:26, Prabhupada said, it is our duty to offer only what God asks. If he desired meat and fish, he will ask. But he has not asked that. So Krishna Anusilyana, as Krishna wants it, is how you should give it to him. So Devotional service is the only criteria for bona fide offering to the Lord. The Lord assures that he positively eats such foodstuff offered by the devotee. So judging from all sides, the Yadus were perfectly trained, civilized persons. And their being caused by the Brahmana sage was only by the desire of the Lord. The Holy incident was a warning to all concerned that no one should behave lightly to be Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. This is the end of the purpose, a caution. Please be cautious, be careful. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are not personalities to toil with. He said, from this same mouth comes blessing, and from the same mouth will come curse. You know, one example is the case of Pandu. Pandu, when he married Madri, he went with Madri and the elder wife, Kunti. They went to the sage, and the sage blessed them. You have happiness, you do this. And they left. The next day, Pandu went hunting, unknown to him, that the sage who blessed him yesterday has gone for pastime to have sexual intercourse in the garb of a deer. How can he know? Is there he saw, is there he shot. But when he went to catch his hunt, the sage has turned back to the sage and said, oh, you are the one I blessed yesterday, and you have done this. We took the body of the earth to enjoy this animal pleasure. It describes sex life as animalistic pleasure, not for human beings. Human being is atato brahma jignasa, inquiries, inquisitiveness. But that is the highest pleasure in material life. But for learned people, they see it is animal tendency, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's what animals don't have to struggle for it. But human beings will have to work hard, accumulate big bank balance to enjoy this. So when the sage told you did this, it cost him. From the same mouth comes blessing, and the same mouth comes curse. The next time you go close to your wife, you will die. That is how Pandu left this planet. So Prabhupada's warning in the end of the purport, don't take Brahmanas and Vaishnavas lightly. It doesn't matter what you ascertain your position or your disposition to be. Thus ends Bhaktivedanta purport to the 10th canto, 3rd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Lost Pastime Out of Vrindavan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for doing such wonderful surgical dissection to the text and the purport. Very beautiful. Lots of points Sri Prabhupada mentioned. You kind of dissected them all, cut them into pieces for us as babies to be able to chew and absorb the nutrients. So dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you may want to ask or share, please, you may indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and if you have to unmute to speak or share your realizations. Dr. Hassan, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Your Grace. Please kindly
Hare
accept
Krishna.
my respectful obeisances. All glory to Gurudev, all glory to Srila Prabhupada, and all glory to the wonderful Adam Assembly devotees. Due to my nature, I did not hear all the class, but I hear some of them, and I thank you so much for the wonderful class. And one part I hear you saying that if you chant and you eat prasada, you are going to be liberated. So my question is, there are people who find it very, 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 very difficult to chant. But they are more better in doing Sankirtan, doing Bhajan or Kirtan. And when they are doing Kirtan, they become in a different world. So if we eat prasadam and you do a very good Sankirtan always, can such person be liberated, or still he has to become better in his chanting? Because it's very, very difficult to control the mind. I myself, sometimes I'll be chanting, and the minute I try to concentrate, before I know I was thinking about something else. So this is my humble question. Hare Krishna, Your Grace.
Thank you very much, Prabhu Hassan. Your question is like the sages of Nemi Saranya asked Sutta Goswami, and he told them, Loka Mangala is beneficial for the whole world. You are being honest, and a lot of people are going through the experience you are going through now. But the reality is, Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said, it can be achieved in this lifetime. So if we are handicapped and we cannot achieve it in this lifetime, so what is our fate? In chapter 9, Krishna said, following yogi, what is his experience? He said, even if you are not very successful in this lifetime, next life, you will continue from where you stop. Nihabi Kamanasu, si pratyabhya yona vidyate. In this endeavor, there's no loss, no domination. But we should not condemn ourselves. We should be honest and continue from whatever providence provides for us. Because if we check the volume of karmic accumulation we have had over lives, it may not expire in one lifetime. But by the mercy of Guru, which is said, Mukankaruti Vachalam, Pangam Langa Yate Girim, Yakripatwam Hawande, Shi Guru Natarina. By the mercy of Guru, impossible things become possible. So, other than the followership, is the mercy factor. The mercy factor. We can also do very nicely, take only prasadam, do kirtan, but it's still dependent on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. So if you get the mercy of Guru and Krishna, like is mentioned in the 8th stanza of that Guru Saka, Yasya Prasada, Bhagavad Prasado, Yasya Prasada, Nagati Kutopi. If Guru and Krishna are pleased, one makes advancement. But ours is to do prescribed. Like in this text now, he gives you yama, do's, and he also gives you niryama. Don't do this. That's the last sentence of Prabhupada. Don't behave lightly with Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Don't try it. It is destructive, devastating. So try your honest best. Krishna is the one who determines ultimately. But we cannot conclude because this cannot happen now. So we have to become act with levity or lethargic. Do your best. If you can't conclude in this life, you continue in the next life. But it is a conclusion. Prasadam will purify. All what we need is become purified of all the things that keep us away from Krishna. Then when we get Krishna's message, we'll go back to Krishna.
Yes, thank you so much, Your Grace. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you for your beautiful question and beautiful answer. His Grace, Ganga Prasad Prabhu. Anadi Nidana Prabhu, please you can mute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Long
Thank
time.
you very much for the difficulty that you went through, but yes, you've been able to come back to grace the platform. Thank you very much for that effort.
It's Krishna's mercy.
So, Prabhu, my question is, Parishit garlanding the Brahmana, say it is orchestrated by the Lord himself. So in the case of Pandu, the same Brahmana or sage who bless him when disguised, having affair, in animal form having affair, and Pandu, the same person who he blessed before, was there also to shoot and eventually he was cursed. And he said he will also be, in his next life, he will also be in the animalistic form to enjoy the same blessing. So my question here is, what lesson are we to learn out of this? Does that mean also, you may mention also that our part, we shouldn't live in such a way that we do the same thing. So does that not also mean that anything that is happening to us as a devotee, or as a human in general, is also being orchestrated by the Lord, since we cannot do nothing on our own?
Thank you very much. Very nice question. First correction I want to make is when I mentioned about our pastime, I didn't say Pandu will take another animal body in his next life. That's not what is in the Mahabharata. What he said is the next time he goes close to his wife for sex, he will leave his body. So that happened in that same lifetime. Both Madri and Pandu knew about this, and they kept some psychological distance. But one day, Providence, like it rained here today, and you know when it rains, there are a lot of moods that are expressed, and Pandu felt like, and he was drawing close to the wife, and the wife is putting, oh, remember the cause, remember the cause. But he was helplessly drawn into, and that is what was mentioned when he was born. The frailty of Ambalika, the frailty of Ambalika, because she's been cautioned, she maintained her composure, but she was frail when she encountered Vyasade. So he said he became pale and the child born will not live long. That is already providentially arranged. So Providence orchestrated the ambience required, and he drew close to his wife, and then he got electrocuted. That was how it happened. Not in another life, same life. Okay, but the lesson to learn is the last statement Prabhupada made in this purport. The whole incident was a warning to all concerned. It's a warning to all concerned that no one should behave lightly. The word lightly here may be misunderstood, but act contrarily in your dealings with Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Be caution. That is the don't in this lesson. You have to practice Krishna consciousness. Niyamagara. Don't follow the rules and regulations for the sake of following without intention to make advancement, or neglect the rules and regulations and act capriciously according to your own whims and caprices. The rules and regulations are meant for you to follow so that you can make advancement. So the third point you mentioned, if everything is being done by Krishna, whatever Krishna does is born out of reciprocation for our desire. He said, I've been fulfilling the desire of the conditional living entities since time immemorial. It's our desire. So Krishna has no guilt. He only, yeyatamam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajamyaham. As they surrender, I reward them accordingly. So what is his own fault? If you hear Prabhupada lecture many times, in reality, Prabhupada does not encourage that we become grihastas. So Prabhupada use the word sex. Licit or illicit is illicit. But he said for his devotees to make advance and get the opportunity to serve Krishna, he officiates marriages for them. But no bachelor daddy, no boyfriending or girlfriending. If you are attracted, marry and live Krishna conscious grihastha. So there are a lot of lessons to learn, but then it is by cultivation of knowledge, which is what we read as the quality of Brahmana, maintaining Brahminical culture. She said in that purport, and in text number 42, peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge. You must have knowledge. That's maintaining Brahminical culture. You cannot act without knowledge. Otherwise, Krishna will not say Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Savasya Chaham, Hridi Sani Visto, Mata Smriti Gyana Punamcha. I'm seated in everyone's heart. And from me comes knowledge. Knowledge to remember and knowledge to forget. Both is your choice. You want to forget, is your choice. You want to remember, is your choice. Krishna will give you adequate knowledge to execute both. I don't know if that puts some insight into answer for your questions. Very good.
Yes, yeah, Prabhu, thank you, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Anyone else with something to ask or share? Well, Prabhuji, I have this question because you mentioned that in your deliberation and also when you were answering Anadi Nirana Prabhu's question, that it is said that sex life, whether licit or illicit, is illicit. Now, how do we contrast this statement with Krishna saying that he is sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles?
Very good. It is not conflicting. It is not contradictory. Krishna said sex life is not disapproved, but sex life has to be according to religious principle. What does sex life according to religious principle mean? In Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada said we are not against marriage. It's just like somewhere again in Chaitanya Charitamrita and Prabhupada's report, he said we are not against polygamy. Look at these two words. We are not against it. We are not against sex life, but the participants should be in tune with Krishna said religious principle. And what is the religious purpose of having sex? To procreate God-conscious children. But in reality of modern day society, that is not what is obtainable. It is more like a license to enjoy unlimited sex. My Guru Maharaj, I think I mentioned it once on this platform. I was having some challenges as a brahmachari, and I was very upset. And I went to Guru and told Guru, what is all this about brahmachari? When in the night you have natural emission. And Guru said, oh, and you are worried? He said, don't think about it. Nature, because of your karma, he has strategies to milk you. By your karma, there's quantity of sex that is already assigned for you in this lifetime. So when you take the ferocious vow of celibacy, nature will commit you through natural emissions. But if you become weak-hearted because of this, and you think, oh, it's better I marry. He said, Buddhi, don't be surprised. Your wife will demand more sex from you than nature is milking you. So, Prabhuji, if it is for the purpose of procreating God's conscious children, you can see the sequence in Bhagavatam. In the beginning of Lord Brahma's secondary creation, there was no wife for Brahma. Because of his austerity, his body became so potent. He was generating living entities from different parts of his body. He wasn't born out of sex. So once I encountered some Christian folk when I was in Port Harcourt, and he was telling me in the Bible, it said, go ye be fruitful and multiply in the world. I said, that is only one aspect of what you know in relation with God to creation. One aspect. And that is the later aspect. When God wants to speed up the procreation to fill the earth, he introduced man-woman procreation. Otherwise, it was not so earlier. It was to expedite. And so Ambuvamanu was the instrument used to orchestrate this. Marry to your wife and procreate powerful children. So there's no conflict, there's no contradiction. Sex life, according to religious principle, Krishna says he is. So if that is the goal, it is licit. But if we are just hanging on the umbrella of I'm married, I'm entitled to sex life, Prabhupada said that is illicit. I think this may be the point you want to clarify.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes, even though one may engage in illicit relationship, it has to be controlled, it has to be done in a religious manner. Okay.
That is part of what it means to uphold Brahminical culture. Just look at it here. Self-control, austerity, tolerance, honesty, and religiousness.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come on its own. It comes from tutelage and determined effort to practice it.
Now, Brahmins, they live a very simple life, I suppose. Could it be possible that since the Brahmins are donated with different gifts like gold and silk, land, and so many things like that, can the Brahmins, and if the Brahmin is married, can the wife also utilize these things for themselves?
Obviously. What did he say? Nirmama, whatever gain that comes of his own accord. It's not that you have to go work hard to earn, to buy them. They came on their own accord. You can use them. And if you read the 7 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, Ideal Society by PRASAD, because Brahmanas are given charity of cow and land, in adverse circumstances, a Brahmana can also farm in adverse circumstances. But they don't struggle to go find land to do that. It is also part of the charity given to them. And they also can give in charity in turn. Give and be given. So yes, the wives can utilize them. But what Srila Krishna Prabhupada taught us is that in our society, among our women, there's only 2 barometers of assessment. One is who marries who and who has more saris. So the men will be running helter-skelter to provide sari. Well, what you just said now, they were giving us charity to the Brahmana. He doesn't struggle for it. I don't know if that makes any way.
It does. It does, because I think last week we were reading something from CC, Chaitanya Charitamrita, I think Adi Lila chapter 13, where it talks about Advaita Prabhu, Advaita Acharya. Because he was the head of the Brahmins, he was very much respected. And his wife, Sita Devi, when she heard that Lord Chaitanya had been born, she took permission from her Lord to go visit the baby's boy. And the description is so vivid. It's like, I was thinking to myself, this is a Brahmin's wife, but she's being treated like the queen, like a kshatriya, like a royal. And so, the question I asked and the answer you gave looking into Adwaita Acharya's wife's lifestyle means that, well, they came on their own by nature's design, and they're using whatever they received again in the service of the Lord, because what they received, Adwaita's wife sent those things to Lord Chaitanya and the parents, which is beautiful. But one thing I was wondering was how and why would the Brahmins be gifted with girls? Because that was one of the gifts. They were gifted with girls, and I was reading the purport where Prabhupada was saying that sometimes some Brahmins have difficulty finding a girl to marry. So there are some circumstances where the citizens donate women or girls to the Brahmins. Of course, it's a different era, but it sounds very insulting to women of today that somebody can gift a girl to another man. But even in those days, I'm wondering how the Brahmins were gifted girls as part of the donations.
If you read in Samskara about marriage, it said there are 8 kinds of marriage. 8 kinds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very bona fide and approved. And number 1 is when the father gives out the daughter in charity to a qualified Brahmana. Intention is to procreate qualified generation. That's the intention. But today, it will be looked at with disdain.
Yeah.
You understand? So it's the time we are living in, but in the days of yore, they were very, very purposeful. It's just like when Subramuni came out of the water, obsessed with passion. I want a wife. And the king told him, take it easy. Go freshen up. Getting a wife is not the issue, but you have to be decent. So he went, and then he cleaned up. It looked very appropriate. And then the king said, now you are talking. His wife you want? He brought out 21 of his daughters. Make a choice. So Barumuni collected all the 21. So it's not wrong to give. There's purpose in it. And if you see also in marriage, he said when a princess marries, sometimes she's escorted with her girlfriends to the matrimonial home so that she can have easy household schedule. They help her to do things, not necessarily because of promiscuous sex, but support system. So if you look at the proper, it said cooperation. There must be cooperation in the Vanasha. So that cooperation is what is aimed at. So, but with our current day experience, we can easily think, wow, this guy is blessed. Blessed among women. That is not the case.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Anadi Didanam Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna once again. Since we've been here for so long, so I'm really enjoying your delivery. Hare Krishna. So, Prabhu, my question now to you, since we are discussing about marriage, what I know is whatever devotional service a man performs is shared with his wife. But when Narada Muni met a hunter in the forest, he asked the hunter to go home and ask the wife if the hunting that he was doing and the consequences if the wife would be ready to share. And eventually, when he went and asked the woman said, no, he's just doing his duty as a husband. So whatever reaction, she's not ready for it. So my question here is, if devotional service can be shared with one's wife, why then is if there is any reaction talking about karma, the woman doesn't share with the husband? I don't know that side. That's why I
All
would
right.
like you to
Thank you
clear
very much.
that
Very
doubt
nice
of.
question. Your reference is the case of Mrigrari the hunter. Not only did the wife object, the children also said, you are on your own. Not only the wife, the whole family, they just folded hands. Oga, you are on your own. But please take note of this, the other side of your statement. Prabhupada said, if a wife is very supportive in devotional service, a wife is very supportive in their devotional practice to the husband, he said there is no need for the man to think of taking sannyas. You get this? And because they are doing devotional service, it becomes a karma crit. Even if there's any reaction, Krishna absolves them of it by taking it away. So cooperation is the important thing. I was reading somewhere, Prabhupada mentioned many times, our constitutional position is to cooperate. And the emblem of cooperation is to prostrate. You bow. And once there's this bowing and cooperation, the wife bows, the husband bows, and they cooperatively work for Krishna, Krishna will operate. So prostration, cooperation, and operation is a sequence. But if there's no cooperation, then the man is on his own. Just like Prabhu asks. So if they give you gift of saris, silken saris, and land and cow and all of this, is it not like trying to allure you to material life? But he said he enjoys with gains that comes of his own accord. He rejoices within. Okay? But look at this, what Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said books are the basis. Knowledge you get from the books. Preaching is the essence. When you have knowledge and you preach, the next thing, it will attract gifts. People will be favorably disposed to you. I heard Prabhupada saying in one of his lectures, he said, let the Indians support him. He wants to build many temples all over the world. They should give. So Prabhupada said, when people give you, how do you use it? Utility is the principle. You cannot, he said, you cannot know a man's true nature until you give him wealth and position. Then their innate nature will come. So for a Brahmana, it's equipoise, it's the same all the time. A devotee is the same all the time. Krishna's mercy is what we live by, and everything is to be utilized in the service of Krishna. So as long as you prayed very well and Krishna blessed you with the right wife, then if you people cooperate, Krishna will operate. You don't have to use your extra energy to go and struggle, which is what we do most times. Devotees are very fortunate, and it is not out of accident that we became devotees in this lifetime. It's a rare privilege, rare benediction that we encounter Krishna consciousness. But we can see that many of us, even though we have gotten this very great fortune, we act conversely to the founding father's perception. Rupa Goswami gave up wealth to come and do devotional service. But we want to give up devotional service to go and look for wealth. And when the wealth comes, we may become bewildered. and will not even be able to apply it in Krishna consciousness. So the safer point is just stick to your Krishna consciousness, and whatever Krishna gives out of his costless mercy, use. Prabhupada, if you see Prabhupada's experience, it's a very pathetic experience. Prabhupada waited for 44 years to obey or execute his spiritual master's injunction because he was not a regular temple devotee. He was a businessman. He was using his business contact to support the mission, Gaudiya Math. So when the Guru instructed him, oh, I'm a businessman, I can generate funds, and when I make money, I can do the, but Krishna frustrated all of that. His business crumbled. He could not sustain his family because the wife is from a wealthy family. He sent the wife to the parents. And when he comes to visit the wife, she gives him food, with some gesture of, you cannot fend, like an infidel. Bible says, one who cannot maintain his family is an infidel. No Prabhupada tolerated all of that. But at the end time, when the realization came that Krishna is the one doing this, he chased the cause of devotion and he just logged on. And today, you cannot quantify the wealth, the treasure of Srila Prabhupada. It's increasing by the day. So let us use the time we have at our disposition to attend very seriously to devotional service and live simple life. That's why Prabhupada made it. We have to cut down on the excesses of wanting to be materialistic. That is in our own interest, Streya, one's self-interest. But it's not wrong to chase, but if we are not guided, we can lose track. As a husband, you must provide for your family. You must take care of your wife. A grihastha means griha. You have a house. You have the key. You can lock and open when you want. You have a wife is there. You have to provide gold and saris and ornaments for her. And then you have to have children with her. That is grihastha. If you cannot afford this, it's a big disqualification. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for your questions. They are educative.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Well, thank you so much, dear devotees. And our revered speaker is Praise Ganga, Das Prasad Prabhu. Talking about Srila Prabhupada taking some 4 decades or so to physically and fully honor his Guru's instructions. Of course, we all know that even before Srila Prabhupada took sannyasi and came to the West, he was preaching. But it was not as complete till he came to the West. Now I am recalling, and devotees here may correct me if I'm getting it wrong, but I'm recalling a couple statements made by Srila Prabhupada that if one seriously wants to preach to the world, then he should become a sannyasi, because sannyasis' main goal is to preach. And therefore, when Srila Prabhupada was a grihastha, like you rightly said, you have to take care of your family. So that will check the amount of time you may have to preach. But if you are a sannyasi, you don't have anything tying you down, so you may be able to preach. Therefore, my understanding is that, like, real preaching ought to be done by the sannyasis. All others give their support to the sannyasis to preach. Is that the case?
Thank you. You have a point. But if you borrow a leaf from Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu took sannyasi so that he will garner respect. People adore and respect sannyasis, not necessarily because of preaching. Okay, grihastas, they can minimize them, say, oh, after all, we are all in it together. So they will not offer that respect. But then you can see people like Ambarish is a grihasta, but the facilitation is given to preaching. Many sannyasis cannot do that. And as grihastas, you can actually enjoy very big respect and recognition from the forum of grihastas. If you are a role model, you live exemplary life. People like Mafatlal, I think Krishna Chandra Prabhu, Srinaji Prabhu, yes, Srinaji practically drove Prabhupada once in Mumbai. He's a grihasta. But then the volume of preaching they have done, the whole of Chupati project was done by Srinaji utilizing his inheritance to create what is a state-of-the-art temple in Chupati, India today. If you go to Mumbai and the Mumbai municipal have places of tourist interest, Chupati temple and Juhu, they are one place that, even more Chupati, tourists come with buses in 40s number. They come to see the edifice. They come to enjoy the ambience of the environment. Brahmacharis are there attending to the guests, but the facilitation is done by grihastas. So grihastas can also do unimaginable preaching. Being a grihasta is not a disqualification. But to enjoy respect, because, you know, a renunciant, like when you say celibacy, everybody thinks everybody will marry. But here, it's like when they see sannyasis, my relatives, they'll ask, why is he not married? Will he marry? And I say he will never marry. He said, what? He will never marry. So their life is amazing life. And that gives them edge also of respect. When Prabhupada made his early sannyasis, they were going out in India. And they were telling Prabhupada, everywhere we go, they are giving us, giving. And Prabhupada said, take small. Because you can be enamored by the gifts and you lose focus. So all these, your statements are right, they're on point. And the main people to preach, yes, is the celibate brahmacharis and sannyasis. In Chupati, even brahmacharis, they don't go to ask for resources. And they travel all over the world, they are preaching. Their bills or the logistics and the expenditure for preaching is facilitated by the grihastas. So yes, it is support system. But the grihastas also, they are preaching, especially those who are in strategic position, like those doctors in Bhaktivedanta Hospital. Wow, you can't imagine the volume of preaching they are doing. So yes, everybody can preach, but sannyasis enjoy societal respect more.
Yes. Yes, I think, thank you so much, Prabhuji, because like you rightly said, Lord Chaitanya was comfortable being a grihasta.
Yeah.
But because he had to preach, he also learned that you get respect if you're a sannyasi. So let me put this, I think it's a very encouraging words from Srila Prabhupada that we all may benefit from. Adi Lila chapter 7, 163. It says, here it is said that Lord Chaitanya made the entire universe thankful to him for propagating the Sankirtan movement with his associates, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has already sanctified the entire universe by his presence 500 years ago. And therefore, anyone who attempts to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sincerely by following in his footsteps and following the instructions of the acharyas will successfully be able to preach the holy names of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra all over the universe. Not just the planet, all over the universe. There are some foolish critics who say that Europeans and Americans cannot be offered sannyas. But here we find that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to preach the Sankirtan movement all over the universe. For preaching work, sannyasis are essential. These critics think that only Indians or Hindus should be offered sannyas to preach, but their knowledge is practically nil. Without sannyasis, the preaching work will be impeded. Therefore, under the instruction of Lord Chaitanya, and with the blessings of his associates, there should be no discrimination in this matter, but people in all parts of the world should be trained to preach and given sannyas so that the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sankirtan movement will expand boundlessly. We do not care about the criticisms of fools. We shall go on with our work and simply depend on the blessings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, the Panchatattva. This is very beautiful from Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. But what I would like to conclude on this particular point is that, as you beautifully explained and described, all people from varnas and ashrams can preach, but the sannyas ashram is specifically for preaching. So maybe sannyasis in our movement should try to refer to this and probably intensify their preaching.
You're very right, Prabhu. You're very right. If the sannyasi doesn't preach, he goes down.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very
much. I'm not trying to say sannyasis in our movement are not preaching, but there is always room for improvement and progress. So
yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. But then, you know, the recognition, the respect, the support system may be so much.
Yeah.
And the sannyasi may be basking in the euphoria of recognition.
Yeah.
But then the sannyasi wants to be safe. Every moment is looking for opportunity for some preaching.
Yeah.
And especially now that the online platforms are made available. The whole day, you'll be happy. I remember when I was a Bhakta, I was private that I joined in a city where I have my university schoolmates. Okay? So as friends, I used to go to them and they'll be wondering, what kind of life is this? So it gives me opportunity to explain to them. But one Sunday, I had gone out to preach to them. I didn't wait to take the Sunday PRASAD. But the joy, the satisfaction of the time, quality time I spent with them was so satisfying for me that when I came back, I didn't feel like eating. So the same way, the sannyasi is very busy preaching. He'll be very satisfied. He'll be happy. So that is part of what that purport is explaining and what you referred to. So yes, there is life. One of our acharyas said, he who has life should preach. Yeah. As long as there's life, it's for preaching. Life is not for any other thing, it's to preach. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And thank everybody for being in the audience.
We have one hand up. His Grace Madhavan Prabhu. But Madhavan Prabhu, please give me 1 minute, please. Maybe 30 seconds. Ganga Prasad Prabhu, thank you so much. His Grace Sriman Varacharya Prabhu oftentimes remind us that we are slowly killing the pioneering spirit. I mean, myself, I'm not all that old in the Vaishnava service, But even me, when I joined, the spirit of preaching was so good, and slowly it's dying down. So maybe it's kind of a wake-up call to all of us to try to go back to the pioneering spirit and energy and try to do more preaching. Madhavan Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu,
Hare
for
Krishna.
giving us this very wonderful lecture. I'm not surprised anyway, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I'm a little bit distracted this meeting from this lecture, but nonetheless, I follow it at least to a very reasonable extent. When you talk about the science, I think one graduates to that level, that is from student life, brahmachari, then grihastha, then vanaprastha. When you become retired, and after retirement, then you graduate to be a scion. At that time, maybe you have advanced in age. Like in Nigeria now, retirement age is about 60 years. So, by then from being a vanaprastha, maybe you get the age of 70 or even 75, then you become a scion. So at that time, you have no other business except, especially if someone pursuing spiritual life. So you are free from household, whatever. And then you are properly trained as a vanaprastha, prepared. So as someone who pursues spiritual life, there are some other things can be done: preaching, traveling, and spreading the Krishna consciousness all over the world. So I'm just saying that it's a level one graduates into. And once you get to that level, you just, you are free to go. Hare Krishna. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Thank you very much for the contribution. Thank you. Makes a whole lot of sense.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Madhavan Prabhu. Ganga Prasad Prabhu, we cannot thank you enough. We've been here for quite a long time. There are other questions we would have loved to ask, but we're not going to keep you and the devotees much longer. So maybe we'll put those questions to someone else. So with that being said, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant melodious Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our revered God brother, His Grace Ganga Das Prasad Prabhu. Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare.
Panchakapatarvyasya, kripasindevyasya, Koti Vaishnava Vrinde ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinde ki Jai.
Happy blessed Damodara Stakam ki Jai. I see blue boy being tied down here.